he had forgotten, drinking so deeply he thought they'd found her. He was frightened then because he thought such water would kill them, and where would the money come from to buy 3 new horses? But the horses were fine. Betsy's hide was smooth where the ringworm had been, and the other 2 were past their own disorder. George knew it was the spring that had done this, but he didn't know if it was the work of the devil or the Lord. He didn't tell a soul when he drove his sick cows down to the water, but by the time they came home their udders were so full they looked like they might burst on the ground. Then little June took sick and laid in her bed like a dull penny. Doctor came from Owensboro and said it wasn't the pox or scarlet fever, but something else that was burning her alive. She was slipping away so fast you could all but see her dying right before your eyes. And there sat her parents, not a thing in the world to do. So George goes out in the middle of the night with a mason jar. He walks in the dark to the spring, fills up the jar, and heads home. He goes to his daughter's room and looks at her pale face. He prays. He takes the first drink of water for himself, thinking that if it was to kill her, he'd best die too. It is foul-tasting, worse even than the smell of it. He lifts up June's head from her sweaty pillow and pours the water down her throat, the whole jarful. He only lets a little run down the sides of her face. He wonders for a moment what it would be like to feed a child from his own body as his wife had done, but the thought embarrasses him, and he lets it go. The next morning, June is fine, perfect, better than new. When the spring had saved his livestock, George kept it to himself, not wanting to look foolish. But when it saved his daughter, he felt the call to witness. He went into the streets of habit and told what he had seen. At first the people were slow in believing, but as hardships came to them and they went to the spring for help, all was proved true. Tales of what had happened spread by word of mouth, and before long people were coming up from as far away as Mississippi. The truth was stretched out of shape through all the telling, and soon the lame showed up wanting to walk, and the blind wanting to see. The spring can't do everything, the townspeople said. It's wrong to expect so much. And then one boy died right there at the water's edge. He was that sick by the time his folks brought him. He's buried in habit now, 200 miles away from his own kind. One of the people who got word of the spring was a horse breeder named Lewis Nelson, who lived in Lexington. Lewis's wife, Louisa, had rheumatoid arthritis, and her hands froze up on her, even though she was only 22. They set off to Habit to see if the water couldn't do her some good. The Nelsons were rich, and when they came to town they were looking for a hotel, but there wasn't one. George had made a vow to never make a cent off the spring, and Habit said that was only fitting. So when visitors came, they were taken in with charity, many times by the Clatterbucks themselves. This put the Nelsons ill at ease, since they were used to giving charity and not receiving it. June was 17 that summer. She had grown up as well as she had started out. She was a kind of a saint in the town, the first one saved by the spring. But all that really meant to June was that there were few boys bold enough to ask her out, and the ones who did thought it would be a sin to try and kiss her. She gave up her room for Mr. and Mrs. Nelson and slept on the sofa downstairs. After her second trip to the spring, the use of Louisa's hands came back to her, and she taught June how to cross-stitch. Her husband was full of joy. Louis was a devout Catholic with a head for figures. He saw the hand of God in the spring and thought the thing to do would be to build a grand hotel in the back pasture. No one was ever sure how he changed George Clatterbuck's mind, but probably it was by telling him that a lot more people could be saved if there was a bigger place to stay, and that George was being unchristian by denying them. It's easy to imagine that Louis had seen how well the Hot Springs hotels had done in Arkansas and Tennessee, and knew that